engineering room. Just a quick look. We'll feature this room a little bit more. All the great guys down here. They told me they wanted me to do the instant reaction from the bowels of this stadium, and I think it's a really, really good spot with all that history up on the wall. The 49ers, they beat the Jets 32-19. That was a dominant win for the 49ers. I think that you can have a flashy win with explosive plays, and that's probably going to go over better in the media, but the 49ers are in the business of trying to win a Super Bowl and to persevere through the marathon ahead, and they've played 20 games in each of the past 3 seasons. So to persevere through the marathon ahead, they're going to have to show that they can win with the ground and pound. They can win sustainably. Why? Because right now, Brandon Ayuk is not in great shape. He dropped a perfect touchdown pass, an MVP caliber throw from Brock Purdy in the corner of the end zone that, I think Ayuk normally catches, but obviously he's not up to form. I don't think that Trent Williams is in top shape. He had to leave to get an IV a little bit later in the game. Somebody like Christian McCaffrey, he didn't even play. But the 49ers showed that they can win in dominant fashion. This was a 2-touchdown victory over the New York Jets, even when they're not at full strength. And it was Jordan Mason who was, the true workhorse tonight. 28 carries. Runs a lot like Marshawn Lynch, just violent. The elbows are swinging around. I imagine it's really hard to get out in front of Jordan Mason as a defender and want to tackle him. This was his first career start. He was, quite frankly, I thought that he was dominant, especially when the 49ers changed the focus of this game early. This was what Shanahan did really well. At the very start, the Jets were playing this game on pass rushing terms, so it was a pass protection game for the 49ers. And we saw Javon Kinlaw, the former 49er, blow up Jake Brendel. We saw Quinnen Williams get past Colton McKivitz on the right side. 2 49ers third down conversions just got blown up at the very start of the game. But Kyle Shanahan said, no, I don't want this to be a pass protection game. I want this to be a running game. And he decided to run the ball right down New York's throat. And that was the weakness that we talked about all week for the Jets. That was the weakness that was on display today. And the San Francisco 49ers, 37 carries, 181 yards, 4.9 per carry. Jordan Mason was up near 150 in this game, I think 140 and change. And they can wait for Christian McCaffrey. There's no reason to rush Christian McCaffrey. It was that calf and Achilles that had him questionable. They decided not to play him. They don't have to play him next week on the turf in Minnesota. They don't have to play him the week after that. This team has the horses to get it done and take its time, because it's about how you finish in January and February. It's not about how you start in September, and the 49ers are good enough to start with a 2-touchdown win. They're up by 3 touchdowns up until garbage time, even without Christian McCaffrey, even without Brandon Ayuk at full strength, even without Trent Williams at full strength in this game. Now, the way that you do that is obviously you move it to the ground and pound, but Brock Purdy has to be really good and really efficient to make sure the box is loose enough. Because any NFL team can stack the box. Even if it's a bad defense, they can put a bunch of defenders up near the line of scrimmage. If they know that you're running the football, you're probably going to be in trouble in that regard. Well, the 49ers in this game, they had Brock Purdy going 19 of 29 for 231 yards, even though the Jets pressured him 28 times. So Purdy, with defenders in his lap, did not flinch a single time. He was better than Aaron Rodgers tonight. Aaron Rodgers had, I thought, a very mediocre game. I thought that he ultimately caved to the 49ers pass rush. Early on he was finding Garrett Wilson, but we could talk about Nick Sorenson. This was his first game as the 49ers defensive coordinator, and Nick Sorenson was awesome. Those 3 first down throws from Aaron Rodgers to Garrett Wilson early on, even though the 49ers stopped the run, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Those 3 throws, they showed that the Jets were taking advantage of some holes in the 49ers secondary. Sorensen, in his first game as DC after the 49ers fired Steve Wilkes last year, took over and made adjustments. And by the second half, he had Deommodore Lenoir breaking up. A pass intended for Garrett Wilson. It bounced up in there. Demetrius Flanagan-Foles notched the interception. I thought the play that essentially sealed this game was Isaac Yiadom, the 49ers' new cornerback. The free agent signing. He's going to be a key fixture of this team, breaking up a pass from Aaron Rodgers intended for Garrett Wilson. Hat tip, big-time hat tip to Nick Sorensen for making the adjustments that allowed the 49ers pass rush to come home. And, this team has such a deep secondary. When we talk about guys like Adam, talk about guys like Rock Yassin coming off the bench. They didn't need him today, but Darrell Luter Jr. was inactive. That just shows you how deep the 49ers are at that cornerback position. Now, the only way that you get into position to do what the 49ers did defensively is if you stop the run. And for most of this game, the Jets were at like 2.5 yards per carry, which anybody who's been following along knows the 49ers last year were number 26 against the run. It's a big part of the reason why Steve Wilks was fired. Today, they doubled down on their commitment against the run against a better Jets offensive line than last year. Breece Hall, a good running back. I thought Malik Collins, the new defensive tackle, was solid against the run. I thought Jordan Elliott had a good game. I mean, this was a muscle flexing performance for the 49ers against the run. That allowed them to have some fun going the other way with the pass rush. Leonard Floyd had the first sack of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's a money player, 39.5 sacks over the past 4 years. The one lapse for the defense came on the free play when Leonard Floyd jumped offside in the second half, and then Aaron Rodgers was able to find Allen Lazard downfield. If that doesn't happen, if the 49ers don't blink in that way, this is more dominant than a 32-19 win. But make no mistake, winning by 2 touchdowns in the NFL, that's dominant, and they were up 32-13 before that garbage time score. Now, 20 of the 49ers points were scored by Jake Moody, a franchise record-tying 6 field goals. Became the first 49ers kicker to hit 6 field goals in one game, with 2 of those field goals coming from over 50 yards. That draft pick is looking really, really nice right now. Plus 2 extra points for Jake Moody. So 20 points, 20 of the 49ers, 32 points today scored by Moody, and then 2 touchdowns. They came on runs for Jordan Mason and Deebo Samuel, who can play a little bit in the backfield, while guys like Isaac Guerendo develop. You don't want to throw him right into the mix if you've got Deebo in there taking some of those carries, and that touchdown early in the first half was huge. But I thought, just a coaching masterclass, in that they were able to shift the point of battle in this game from pass protection, which is the 49ers' weakness, to running the ball down the Jets' throat. But that takes everybody. It took Jordan Mason bowling over the defense. It took Kyle Juszczyk playing a lot of tight end in this game. It took Brock Purdy managing things perfectly to 19 of 29 performance. MVP caliber stuff from Purdy tonight. Because remember, context is that this was the 3rd best defense in football last year, the Jets. And to me, they looked really, really strong. Again, 3 of the top 5 graded coverage guys in the NFL last year on this Jets defense. Sauce Gardner, the cornerback, CJ Mosley, the linebacker, and Quincy Williams, the linebacker. Early on, we saw Quincy Williams, the linebacker, break up a slant pass to Deebo Samuel. That should have woken everybody up and said, whoa, these guys can play. These guys can cover. Sauce Gardner can obviously cover too. And then, CJ Mosley is one of the best linebackers in the game. So when you saw those things happen, and you saw Quinnen Williams lined up against Colton McKivitz at defensive end to take advantage of that big 49ers weakness at right tackle, he said the Jets are here to play. The 49ers better find a way to tilt this game downhill. So that they better find a way to play on their strengths instead of the Jets' strengths, because this is a top 3 defense that they're playing. And what the 49ers did is they pounded the rock with Jordan Mason. That was the weakness of the Jets. Sauce Gardner looks like he's 170 pounds, dripping wet. I heard that he checked himself out of the game. We'll hear more about Sauce Gardner, because he came back in, but he missed part of the game. That was stuff that we heard on Twitter. He wasn't ready to handle some of that 49ers run blocking smoke. I thought it was a weak call, the one that called the Jordan Mason touchdown back, because Deebo Samuel looks like he's 40 pounds stronger than Sauce Gardner. He doesn't need to hold him to clear way into the end zone. But they called holding, and the 49ers just had to go back and move the ball downfield again. They picked up an offensive pass interference flag on that drive, and it was diesel for the 49ers time and time again. They kept on pounding diesel with Jordan Mason and then Deebo Samuel, and the Jets could not stop it in this football game. So Brock Purdy and company take down Aaron Rodgers. Up next, Sam Darnold, who went through 49ers QBU and looked really, really good against the New York Giants in the season opener. Super Sam, as they called him at USC, is going to be the 49ers' next opponent in Minnesota. It's going to be on turf. I don't think they have to rush to play Christian McCaffrey. And we're going to see how the 49ers are going to come off a short week. It's going to be challenging heading to Minnesota. But as you saw today, they flexed their muscles. They had over 400 yards of total offense, and the Jets had less than 200 yards of total offense once garbage time started. They're up by 3 possessions. This is Aaron Rodgers on the other side. This was a talented Jets team. We saw it at the start, but the 49ers were just too much. I think the 49ers probably were the most impressive team in week one in the NFL. If you look at pedigree coming in, we knew they were a top 2, top 3 team coming in. The strength of their victory here against the top 3 defense from last season, featuring Aaron Rodgers and a revamped offense, that was a really strong win. And the 49ers can now bide their time to make sure that they peak in December, January, and February, because they certainly haven't peaked yet. There's certainly still a lot to fix, but the fact that they were able to win 32-19, even with a lot left to fix, well, that's a credit to how strong this contender is. By the way, before I head to the locker room, Ricky Pearsall today, 49ers honored the first responders and the doctor who tended to Ricky Pearsall at San Francisco General Hospital. We'll post that video. You can go check it out. That was a cool moment before the game on Ricky Pearsall's 24th birthday. So I think the vibes around the 49ers are doing quite okay. People said they were bad, and yeah, I don't think it was great last week when tragedy nearly struck. But obviously, a miracle happened instead, and Ricky Pearsall was able to survive. 49ers were able to honor those who tended to him first today on Ricky Pearsall's 24th birthday. He was happily watching this 49ers game on the same night that Frank Gore was inducted into the 49ers Hall of Fame. San Francisco's 1-0, dominant win over the Jets. I'm off into the locker room here from the equipment room at Levi's Stadium. This is the room, by the way, that Tom Brady made famous. All the legends up on the wall. If you guys want a tour of the 49ers equipment room after one of these instant reactions, let me know, and I'll show you, because this thing stretches out far to the back with a lot of cool stuff at Levi's Stadium. 32-19, 49ers beat the Jets, dominant fashion. They ground them into submission. We'll talk to you guys soon.